What's up, guys? This is your boy DZD, aka the Drank Kang, Purple World Entertainment, and you are live inside the Dungeon Palace Studios once again. Thank you guys so much for clicking on this video, and thank you guys so much for joining us on the channel. As always, before we get started, let me just shout out a few of the new subscribers popping up on the screen. You're gonna see a few of the new guys. Thank you so much for hitting that subscribe button. I really appreciate you guys so much for rocking with us. If you have not done so yet, please hit that subscribe button and also click that bell notification because you don't want to miss the content that I'm going to be dropping on this channel. Speaking of that content, I got a really nice video for you guys today. I'm going to be talking to you guys about EQing. EQing on your beats is very important because sometimes it can make or break a really nice beat. Sometimes you'll pick the greatest sound, but if they aren't EQ'd correctly and put in their own pockets, the beat may not come out too well. So I'm going to show you how to get that EQ to work for you. This is a very simple tutorial. Some of you guys out there may be familiar with some of the things that you're going to see, but some of you guys may not. I'm just going to show you how to use that high-end and low-end EQ to make your beats sound nice and to have your sound to sit in their own specific lanes. So without saying too much, let's jump right into the MPC software. We're going to cook up a little something, and then we're going to get to EQing. Let's do it. Okay, I have a nice sound that's pulled up. The first thing we're going to do is come up with like a little melody, and then we're going to probably put some chords behind it. That way I can show you how I use the EQ to put those sounds in their separate pockets. That way they sit well inside the beat. So I got this instrument here. Has a bit of a bottom into it, not much, nice mid, and it's kind of like a guitar pluck type sound. So I'm gonna lay down just like a little simple melody, and then we'll see if we can put some chords behind it. Let's see. Okay, that works out for us. Let's see if we can expand these notes just a little bit. Give them a little bit of room. Nice. Now we're going to see if we can click a few things in here just to kind of fill in a little bit of the space. Maybe give it some warmth with some backup notes. That works out. Nice little chord progression we got going on. Okay, so now that we have the melody laid down, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bounce this down to a sample. I like to work with samples instead of VSTs. That's just the way I like to do it. I get to manipulate it a little bit better, carve out what I want to and all that in a sample, make it sound a little warped if I want. You know, so I just like to work with samples. So what I'm going to do here is go to track 2. I'm going to left click on it, and I'm going to hit bounce to sample. So it's going to bounce this entire track to a sample. Let's do that. There it is, and it's going to put the sample here. And then if we right click on it, this is our sample now. There's our sample. Let's see how this sample will sound. Let's see if we pitched it a few ways. See if we can pitch it up a little bit. Sounds all right. Let's see if we put you down some. Let's go with it -1. -1 semitone. We're gonna pitch it down -1. Now we're gonna chop the sample up real quick. We want them to fall on the transients. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna come up with a nice little pattern for the sample. Kind of gonna play it a little bit differently, maybe speed it up a little bit. The sample is in 165 BPM, so let's speed that up to about 190. See if that works. Yeah, something like that. See if we can do something. Yes, I like that. That's really nice, really nice. Just something that we can lay down real quick. You know, like I said, I don't spend too much time with chops. I kind of tap out a few things in my head, fill out the pads a little bit, and the first thing that comes to my mind, that's what I rock with. Okay, our next step is to lay down a nice synth melody. So I pulled up this synth here. I think it goes nice and dreamy with the sound that we've already laid down. So we're gonna kind of just lay down like a nice little melody over this, and then we're gonna use our EQ to separate the two. So let's do it. Okay, so now we're going to pull up our EQs on both of our tracks, the synth track and the guitar track. So let's do that. You can do this. You can do this with any EQ. I just like to use my particular one. If you have not seen me use this EQ already, I'm going to leave a link to it in the video description. The only reason why I like using this EQ is simply because it's lightweight and it packs a lot of power, does a lot of things, and you don't have to worry about it bogging down your CPU or anything like that, you know. So yeah, that's the only reason why I like using it. But you can use your own EQ. You know, the methods that I'm gonna do, it's very, very simple. You know, it works with any type of EQ. You just have to follow along the concept. So right is synth, left is guitar. So the first thing we want to do is we want to get rid of all of this low end because we know that we want to put a bass sound in here. So that's the first thing we want to do. We want to get rid of all of the low end that resides in both of these instruments. So we're going to pull up our high pass filter and we're going to carve off. I usually start off with about 100, being that this sound is lower than this sound. So we're going to start off at about 100. And then here we're going to take to about, let's go to about 200, being that it's lighter. We're going to carve a few more of those things off. Now here's the trick that I'm going to show you. You have to be able to listen to each sound and be able to put it in its own pocket. So let's disengage the EQ very quickly, and we're going to listen to both the sounds just dry and plain. You're going to see how they overlap each other. They're not in their own pockets. They're all over each other. Some of the synth is spilling over into the guitar. The bass from the guitar is spilling over into the synth. You know, everything is kind of going all running into each other. So we need to space that out. So I'm going to show you how to carve just enough of this frequency out to where it starts to become clear inside of this guitar. If you don't have any type of headphones or anything like that, then you may not hear exactly what's being done here. So I encourage you to get some headphones, plug those bad boys in, and check out what we're going to do here. Now the object is, if you bring it all the way down, then the instrument gets too thin. So you have to be able to bring it all the way down and then come back up to where now the instrument starts to sound full, but you can hear it mesh well with the guitar sound. It's almost like you're ducking it all the way out of the way, and then you're going to bring it back to mesh well with the sound. So let's do that. There it is. We have exactly where it starts to become bright. When you move it to the guitar sound, we have exactly where it starts to blend well. Not where it starts to overlap and it starts to mask the frequencies. We have it exactly where it starts to blend well. And that's how you want to do this high pass filter trick. You always want to move it all the way down to where the sound completely ducks out of an instrument, and then move it right back up to where the sound actually comes right back in and starts to sound nice. Okay, now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to get our bass under control. That means we're going to get the low end of our track under control. Now I have an 808 pulled up. That's going to give us a nice bass sound. But this 808 is going to mask that guitar sound. Remember, our guitar sound falls in the low end. We just took off a little bit of that low end, but it still is going to fall in the low end. So we have to make sure that our guitar has its own pocket, and also this bass, this 808 bass, has its own pocket to set in. So the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to lay down a nice 808 pattern just to kind of flow over the beat. Let's see if we can do that. Okay, now we're going to pull up our EQ for the 808 track, and then we're going to go and pull up our guitar EQ as well. So we're going to put our guitar on the right, our 808 on the left. So let's get our 808 to sit right. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut off a little bit of this low end rumble that we don't need in the 808. So let's do that. Let's engage our high pass filter again, and then we're going to take off just that rumble. Let's do that. Okay, if you notice what I'm doing here, I'm doing the same exact thing. I'm going all the way down to where I drop the 808 completely out. You can't hear the bass. And then I bring it right back up to where you can actually start hearing the frequency that I want to shine through. So let's do that again. I'm gonna bring it back here, and then we're gonna lower it all the way down to where you can't hear it, and then we're gonna bring it back to where you start to hear the bass sound that I want in the beat. And it sits right in that 80 to 60 range. That's exactly what I want. You know, so now that we have that going, what's going to happen is we want this guitar to not conflict with this 808. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually do the same thing. We're going to drop out a little bit of this guitar to where it disappears completely, and then we're going to bring it back to where it blends in with the 808. So pay close attention to the guitar sound. Now we have our guitar, it went from the 200 range to about the 400 to 600 range, because that's where, when we start to bring it back in, that's exactly the frequency that we need, because it starts to blend well with the 808. Let's do it one more time. We're going to bring it back to 200 where it was, and then we're going to bring it down and bring it back up again. Let's do it. There it is. We now have it. Now that we know that our bass sounds are sitting in their own pocket, our 808 is in its own pocket, and also our guitar sound is in its own pocket. Now what we want to do is, if you notice, our 808 has a little bit of ringing, a high-end ringing at the end. Let's solo the 808, and I want you to pay attention to just that high-end ringing that the 808 has at the end. It's like a buzzing, high-end ringing sound. Okay, that's the distortion and the static that's on the 808 that's being brought out once the frequencies are cleared. So now what we want to do is make sure that that static doesn't interfere with our high-end synth sound. So that's what we want to focus on now. So let's close out our guitar, and then we're going to bring up our synth EQ and put that on the right. 808 is on the left, synth is on the right. So now we're going to be focusing on the high-end part of our tracks. That means this part here, these parts here, all the way in the high end, because that's where our synth is. We're dropping it all the way out to where all you can hear is just bass. And then we're going to slowly bring back in that ringing sound to where it starts to blend in with our synth. We're going to start down here and watch how it masks the synth. It's going to mask that high-end frequency in the 808 is going to mask the synth. But then once we bring it down, it's going to clear up, and then we're going to slide it back to kind of blend it in. And if you notice, now that we ducked it out of the way of the synth track, now our 808 becomes very, very clear and very crisp. You can hear it, it's present, it's not interfering with any of the other instruments, and it has its own space. Also, the synth has its own space, and let's engage the guitar and see how that flows with everything. See, if you notice, every single sound is sitting in its own pocket. And that is what helps your beats out. Sometimes when your beats aren't sounding too good, you can choose the right sounds, but sometimes those sounds are overlapping each other and the frequencies are all over each other, and it drowns the sounds out. So now the beat sounds a bit dull. It may have some higher resonant frequencies that you don't want in there, and the beat starts to sound terrible simply because all of those frequencies are on top of each other. So this is just a very, very simple way of using high pass, low pass filters to kind of space out your beats, put them in their own pockets, put your sounds in their own pockets. That way every sound has its own lane and it sits very, very nice in your beat. That concludes the video, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. If you found this video of any value, please hit that thumbs up button and also drop me a comment below. It really encourages me to keep getting these videos out to you guys. As I said before, a link to the EQ that you saw in this video will be in the video description. You can go check that EQ out for yourselves. If you don't have it, don't sweat it, because the techniques that you saw in this video, they're very simple, and it doesn't matter the EQ that you use. If you implement this strategy, you will end up with the same exact results. So use your own EQs if you have them. You can also use the Akai MPC EQ that comes in the software. It really doesn't matter, because you will come out with the same results. If you have any questions about what you saw in this video, please drop me a comment. I'll try and help you guys out as much as I can. Once again, please consider hitting that subscribe button and also hit that bell notification, because you don't want to miss the future content that I'm going to be bringing to you. I have a lot more beat making videos, I have a lot more sample pack reviews coming, and I also have a lot more tutorials just like this one that'll help you guys out with your beats. If you haven't already, please follow me on Instagram at the Drank Kang, and also follow my Facebook page at facebook.com/Dungeon Palace Studio. You don't want to miss the content that I drop there in between these videos. So follow me and send me a shout out. Thanks again for tuning in, guys. This is your boy DZD, aka the Drank Kang, Purple World Entertainment, live from the Dungeon Palace Studios, and I will check you guys in the next video. Peace out.